Hello, Chair.
Hello, how you doing?
Good on a Tuesday that feels like a Monday.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody on this call from up north?
I'm from up north.
So I was in Fallon last week when they got all that snow.
It was quite a bit of snow too, and then it rained, and now there's nothing.
Really?
Completely dry. Yep. Yep.
I was geeked out when that snow was coming down. I was geeked out, man. And then it turned to slush. And that's what
Mhm.
I don't I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan. Moved to Vegas in 2000. So I was geeked out when I saw the snow, but I don't miss the slush. And I didn't leave Reno until Friday night, and it was getting slushy by that time, and I was like, yeah, I don't miss that part. It's time for me to go home.
Yep. But it's fun to see when you don't get to a lot, right?
Yep.
Madam Chair, it is 1 o'clock, but I'm thinking we'll give it a couple more minutes.
I think that sounds great.
Okay. Madam Chair, would you like to go ahead and begin?
Yanni, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the Subcommittee meeting for technical assistance for the Governor's Interagency Advisory Council on Homelessness. This meeting has been publicly noticed and is in compliance with Nevada's open meeting law. Chair Michelle Fuller-Hellauer will call the meeting to order.
Good afternoon. It is now 1:07, and I would like to call the January 16th, 2004 meeting of the Nevada Interagency Council on Homelessness Subcommittee for Technical Assistance to order. Niani, would you please call roll?
Yes. Chairwoman Michelle Fuller-Hellauer,
Present.
Karen Van Hest,
Present.
Noga Valdez, Dr. Pamela Janelle, Chris Murphy,
Present.
Vice Chair Brooke Page,
Present.
Austin Pollard,
Present.
Christy Costa,
Present.
Bill Ennis, Lorena Loomis,
Present.
Scott Benton, Madam Chair, we do have quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So item 2 on our agenda is public comment. No action may be taken upon a matter raised until the matter has been specifically added to the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. If you're making a public comment via phone, please call 1-775-321-61111. The ID is 847-312-658#. The passcode is XHMDFW. We are now open for public comment. Please unmute yourself and state your name for the council. Do we have any public comment? I think if you're on the phone, you need to press #6. Any public comment? Seeing none, hearing none, we will go ahead and close out this public comment. There will be another public comment period at the end of our meeting. Going on to the next agenda item number 3, for possible action. Possible approval of the minutes for December 19th, 2023. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from December 19th, 2023? You all should have received a copy of those minutes in the appointment notice. Or is there any discussion about the minutes or corrections needed?
Madam Chair, Brooke, for the record, I'm going to not make a motion on this considering I signed and approved those minutes.
Thank you, Brooke.
It's Chris, I'll second.
We didn't have a motion, so Chris, would you mind doing an actual motion?
Oh, my apologies, I misunderstood. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. We have a motion for approval of the minutes for December 19th, 2023. Do we have a second?
Hi, this is Lorena Lemus. For the record, I'd like to second it.
Thank you, Lorena. We have a first and a second for Approval of the minutes. All those in favor, please unmute yourself and indicate by verbally saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please unmute yourself and indicate by verbally saying nay. Any abstentions, please indicate by verbally indicating. I will abstain since I was not at the last meeting. Michelle Fuller-Hellauer for the record. Any other abstentions? Motion carries. The minutes are passed. We'll move on to agenda item number 4 for discussion and possible vote on the process to add new members to the ICH Technical Assistance Subcommittee. This would include the number of members, length of time for letters to join, our rating system, and the scale that we would use. So would anybody like to open the discussion regarding adding new members to this subcommittee?
Brooke Page for the record. Hi, Madam Chair, and the
ma'am.
committee. I'd like to just kind of rehash a bit of what we talked about at our last meeting. I think that there was definitely a interest in increasing or opening up the membership for this committee. And there was a discussion that was brought forward that we keep letters of interest open in perpetuity, that we sort of allow for, if folks learn about this committee, want to participate over time, they could submit their letter of interest, and we have sort of like an open call. And quarterly, as a group, we would have a discussion on, who has submitted letters of interest, and make a decision at that point whether or not we want to do a vote to increase the membership at that time. And so I, just from that conversation, from my memory, that was something that I thought was an important discussion, and one that would love to revisit to see if we can get that codified. But I'll just see if anybody else has any other thoughts on that. Also, Brooke, for the record, the number of members, it was really important that we have an odd number, but that there was, it felt like the number that we had or currently operating under felt like a good one, because we've been able to make quorum pretty much at all of our meetings. So I'll just ask Niani if you can just refresh my memory on how many members we currently have. And then of those that we currently have, what is our current vacancy? Because I think that there was some members that either haven't been able to join for whatever reason or have since left their current positions. Do we have any vacancies? Sorry.
Niani Cooper for the record. There are 11 members that currently sit on the council. There was one email sent out, requested to be sent out for a member. There hasn't yet to be a response for that. So right now we don't, out of those 11 members, we don't currently have a vacancy.
Okay.
Michelle Fuller-Hellauer for the record. Didn't we have a few folks drop out though in the past year? Didn't we at one point have like 15 members at the beginning of this year?
Yes, you had a solid 13. I don't know if it had gotten up to 15, but there were 2 members who did leave for personal reasons, either leaving their job or too much work and things of that. So you had 2 members that did within the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months that stepped away.
And I don't know if I'm recalling this correctly or not. I thought we had voted one or two members in that just never even showed up for meetings once they got voted in. Am I misremembering that?
I am looking back through the attendance because we keep an ongoing attendance record, Madam Chair, so I'm looking that up now.
Thank you, Niani.
Madam Chair, at the beginning of 2023, there were, you're correct, 15 members, 2 that I don't know if I would call them members. They were voted in, but we didn't have any other contact with them at all. And then over time, then you sat at a solid 13 for a few months, but now we're at 11.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought at the beginning of 2023 we had identified that 15, or when we were at this point last year, that we had identified we wanted 15 on. We wanted to shoot for 15 on this council or this committee. Now we may decide that that's too big because we've been operating pretty much at 11 and meeting quorum. So that's up for discussion.
This is Brooke for the record. I appreciate wanting to have as many representation as possible, and that there's folks that have been participating in this work group and haven't been officially a part of the technical assistance group. And I think getting a quorum is actually is critical. And so if a happy medium and making a recommendation that we have a body of 13 to allow an opportunity for new folks to join, and to keep us in a place where we can actually meet quorum, I think 13 may be a good number.
What do other folks think?
Austin Pollard for the record. I think the quorum is always priority. I think we've done a great job with 11. I can echo Brooke where 13 doesn't seem like that would be too much of a stretch. I'm on page with that.
This is Karen Van Hast. I agree.
Okay. Anyone else?
This is Lorena Lemus for the record. I would also agree with having 13. I think that is like a good happy medium.
Okay. So it sounds like we're coming to a consensus around 13. Do we have anybody that has concerns about having a membership around 13?
Austin Pollard for the record. Just from my knowledge, if we have 13, what would we need for quorum?
I'm thinking 7.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct.
That sounds manageable.
Okay, so it sounds like we should shoot for 13. And we have 11 currently. Is there anybody that at this point feels that they will need to step down? I think that we need to know that.
Austin Pollard for the record. I do want to let this body know that I will be taking leave, parental leave in February, so I will be out for at least 6 weeks. But I do plan on continuing once I come back.
Congratulations, Austin.
Thank you so much.
Brooke Page for the record. I think also what our protocol, if it's in our bylaws, what the outreach effort has to be in order to determine if somebody's lack of responsiveness kind of removes them from this committee, if they've missed so many meetings, or if they don't respond, if we've asked if they are going to continue. Have we exhausted that process for the members that haven't been participating?
Madam Chair, did you want me to take that question?
Please, Niani.
Sorry, sorry, okay,
Sorry,
Niani Cooper
Niani.
for the, no worries, Niani Cooper for the record. Um, the bylaws do state about the, obviously the council, if they miss, if they don't at least attend 75% of the meetings, that at that point the chair could reach out and the council could make a decision for them to no longer serve. This committee has never done that before. That's something, obviously, Michelle, if you decided to, you could go with those same bylaws and rules and regulations. We could also send you the attendance tracker that we keep so you can see who's missed the bulk of the meetings and who would fall into that situation.
Michelle Fuller-Hellauer for the record. Didn't we put in the letters last year an expectation?
Yes, we quoted that from the bylaws, the expectation of attending at least 75% of the meetings within the calendar year.
So given that that expectation was put in the outreach, and when folks applied to be a part of this group, and I believe the language, I'm looking through my records to see if I can pull up the actual language, but I believe the language indicated that by applying, they were accepting that they would adhere to the attendance policies or the attendance requirements. I believe that means that we could follow the standards that are set by the ICHH.
That is my understanding. Yes.
So how many do we have that have not met that 75%?
Madam Chair, let me just take a moment and find that information for you.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Madam Chair, you only have one, and we did receive an email. I don't know if you and Vice Chair Brooke Page remember. We have one that hasn't met that 75%. Remember, you guys meet every month. So there is someone who is
Has a
close to
medical
that at
condition.
this. Right, right. The only other member, the two members that would be in question are Bill Ennis and Scott Benton. And the way we, Madam Chair, Niani Cooper, again for the record, the way we track it is we have unexcused absences and then excused absence. Obviously, if someone lets us know there's a conflict or there's a meeting, then we mark that as an excused absence. So we don't view just the way for our tracking purposes. We count unexcused absences.
Well, Brooke Page, for the record, I would like to make a motion if possible, to establish a number of 13 for our Interagency Council Technical Assistance Work Group and be able to fill for the vacancies on an as needed basis when our membership falls below 13.
This is
Okay.
Lorena Lemus, for the record, and I'd like to second that.
Any discussion around that?
We, Austin Pollock for the record. I do like making the motion for the 13, but I think the language where we do recruiting year round and review individuals who submit letters of interest quarterly, to start adding it unless there's an immediate need. I think just clarifying what the recruiting process looks like and what when are we reviewing the individuals, if we're doing it every session. And I know last meeting we talked about that. Do we want to spend each session to do it, or do we want to break it down quarterly? My recommendation is we have a quarterly review of the applicants unless there's an opening, and then we can review them monthly till we get the board seats full.
I think that's a great idea. Any thoughts around that? I wonder if there's an ability to actually, I mean, I've seen some of the letters and stuff that have come in. I wonder if we can shift the way we recruit into an actual application format rather than just saying, can you submit a letter?
Austin Pollard for the record. I think that would make it easier for people to apply for it and possibly have a section in it where they can write what their experience is and how it relates to them being on the council. But I think an application format would be the easiest way to really attract attention.
Yeah, and maybe if we could set up the application such a way that it helps to meet some of our rating scale, it may make reviewing some of those applications a bit easier as well. Can we have maybe, I don't know, Niani, if it's possible to do an electronic application through the website? Am I asking too much again?
I can ask, obviously, if that can happen. I'm not sure. We haven't had that request before, so I can definitely ask. And just remember, because this is a public meeting, everything needs to be publicly noticed. So I need to find out, and that would be, and I can definitely, I'll ask our administration if that's something that they can post online.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that if we could publicly notice it and then knowing that that application is then an open application on the website, right? Then that makes it open to the public, right? At any given time. And that's an option, but that we can also make that application downloadable, or that folks can receive paper applications or applications in another way, or can submit applications in another format as well, so that we have, folks that don't have maybe access to the computer in order to do so, or they may have some limitations that preclude them from being able to fill out an application online. They have another way of being able to submit an application.
Madam Chair, I will ask that question.
Thank you. I'm just thinking that might be a way to make sure that it's readily available, rather than someone actually having to ask, or us ensuring that we get it into the right people's hands at the right time. Okay, so with that, I believe we have a motion on the table and a second with a modification. So let me see if I can summarize this, and I'm going to ask you all to correct me if I get this wrong. So I believe the motion with the second on the table is that we set our membership at 13 and accept that we recruit for and accept applications, leaving our application recruitment open in perpetuity, and with a review of those applications at minimum on a quarterly basis, monthly if necessary, in order to fill any vacancies as they come up, so that we can maintain membership at a level of 13. Did I get that correct?
Perfect. That sounds correct to me.
Okay. So I believe that was the motion and the second. So
this is Ryan. I have a quick question for my purposes. Is that going to be effective immediately? Because if so, that would change the quorum requirement for your next meeting. It would change it from, I don't know, whatever it is. You have 11 now, so it's 6 now, and it would change it to 7.
Oh, good call, Ryan. So
Madam Chair, I just wanted to let you know we're not going to have a quick response back on that application to be posted online. So I just want to let you know I'm asking the question now, but that's not going to be a quick turnaround.
So we'll need to recruit probably as we have in the past, at least initially. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Niani?
Yes.
Okay. And I think what I heard from Ryan is that we need to put some caveat in the motion for putting our membership to 13 on when that would start, or the 13 starts immediately, and we would then have to meet a quorum of 7 for our next meeting in order to have a meeting. So before we can take our vote, I think we need to determine when we are going to do our recruitment and close the recruitment and do voting for recruiting in our new members.
This is Brooke for the record. Can we modify the motion to start recruitment in the second quarter to allow us time to figure this out and open up an application now with the intent that we have new members online starting in the second quarter of 2024 and increasing our number to 13 at that time?
You could do that. This is Ryan.
All right, well, I would like to amend the motion for that timeline.
Just for clarification, once again, though, you're talking about the beginning of the second quarter, which would be your April meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So do we need to restate the motion then in order to take the vote?
I think it's this is Ryan. It's clear enough, I believe.
Okay. Okay, so are we ready to take a vote now, or do we need more conversation?
I think we should vote.
Okay. All right, so do we all know what we're voting on?
For the record, I do.
Okay, are we all ready? Okay, we are voting. Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Unmute your microphones and verbally indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, unmute your mics and verbally indicate by saying nay. All those abstaining, unmute your mic and indicate as such. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so before we are done though with this item, I think we still need to identify, we did the number of members, but we still need to, are we going to use, we need to talk about this time's recruitment. So do we want to use the exact same verbiage that we use? Do we want to change up any of our verbiage? And how long do we want to leave the letters, the length of time open for requests for letters to join?
Austin Pollard for the record. I would recommend leaving the application process open year round. If we are at capacity, we can just notify people that will hold the letters until a future seat does open, and we can review in that direction.
Okay. Do we need to put some language to that effect in our in the letter that's going out to recruit?
For the record, I think we should.
Madam Chair, would you like to see the letter? If I could, I'm just going to share the screen real quick. Sam, I'm going to grab it from you if you don't mind.
That would be great. I was just going to ask you if you had that easily accessible.
So I can show, this was the letter that's usually sent out. And I think At the bottom, it does give a deadline date, or it did.
Can you make that just a little bit bigger, Neon?
Yes, sorry.
Down at the bottom right. At the bottom of the brown corner. Yeah, there you go.
No, that's too big, sorry.
Any changes that anybody would like to see on this letter? Don't be shy and don't feel like you're going to hurt anybody's feelings.
Brooke Page, for the record, I think what should be added is our criteria that we review, kind of to be transparent about how we score and evaluate. So if we could just add maybe our rubric that we used from last year to this.
Other thoughts?
This is Chris. I agree with the recommendations given so far as far as adding that we're full and we're collecting these for a future date, like we discussed about in Brooke's comments. I think they're both very valid, and I know that it would be really important for people to know when we review the letters, because that's all they're giving us is a letter, what we're looking for in the letter specifically. That's all I have.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. So I wonder if, because paragraph under the what we cover in the Technical Assistance Committee and the strategic plan kind of says what we're looking for in the letter, but maybe it's not called out clear enough on what we're looking for in the letter.
I'm sorry, did I take it down too soon? I can put it back up.
Brooke, for the record, yeah, I just think adding like applicants will be evaluated based on, and maybe just kind of calling out the fact that, you know, having lived experience, their connection to working with people with lived experience and addressing homelessness. I think we also looked at geography as something that we were kind of weighing as a criteria.
Yep.
And so kind of just being explicit about those things so it's not arbitrary.
Yeah. And maybe we reformat a little bit where it says interested candidates are requested to send a letter of interest to and include, right? And it's got this whole list of things that they should include. or I'm just thinking out loud, folks. So I process out loud, or to Brooke and a couple of your other points. Maybe it's just taking out where it says deadline, saying your letter will be rated based on and the 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Lived experience, geographic representation, skills and knowledge, expertise, and experience in homeless services, mental health, substance abuse services, just like what we have in our agenda. You don't necessarily have to put that it's the rating scale necessarily, but that those are the 4 items that it'll be based on, and just put them in a list like that, and that the applications will be kept on record until and reviewed. I don't know what the language is that like HR usually uses. There's some language that gets used about reviewing applications to fill open position and then keeping them on file to fill any future vacancies or whatever. I don't know what that language is that gets used, but we could probably snag that language from somewhere. You know what I'm talking about? Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
I'm glad you do. It's one of those days where I feel like I'm like speaking out of my armpit or something. You know?
We can reformat the letter and have it ready to be reviewed at the next meeting if you guys would like, just so we're all on the same page. So we're sending out exactly what your expectation is.
Is that what we want to do, or do we want to just have Yanni and Sam review and identify a couple people to review and then send out?
Austin Pollock for the record. I think the sooner we can review it and get it approved, the better to begin looking for new members.
Okay. Would a couple people like to be like to identify themselves or others as the reviewers to approve the review, the final product before it goes out?
Austin Pollard for the record. I'd be more than happy to be one of the individuals that reviews it.
Okay.
This is Karen Van Hest. I would also like to do that too.
Okay. Everybody okay with Karen and Austin reviewing the revisions and giving the okay for revisions to go out on behalf of the rest of this group?
Aye.
Any concerns with Karen and Austin acting as spokespersons for the rest of this group? Please unmute yourself and speak up. Hearing no dissension, I will say that we will bless you, Austin and Karen, to take a look at those revisions and give your blessing on the edits, and so that we can get them sent out. Thank you both for volunteering and to step up as our editors or reviewers. Okay, And then hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have something we can look at. As far as responses. Okay, anything else on this agenda item? Hearing none, seeing none, we will close agenda item number 4, and we will move on to agenda item number 5. This is for our champions, this champions report status update from the COC and technical assistance subcommittee members regarding progress in developing content and language to be included in your assigned sections of the Nevada Strategic Plan on Homelessness. Let's start with, I believe, and I apologize, I missed the last meeting, but I think there was an update done to the champion, co-champion list for the strategic plan. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, the list that Sam is sharing, that's the most updated list that we have at this point, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. And do we need, am I to correct in understanding we need to make sure that we need to validate that this list is correct? Or
That
did
is
you
correct.
already do that at the last meeting?
Austin Pollard for the record, we did review it last meeting. There were some minor changes on it.
So are those changes reflected on this chart now?
For the record, yes. I recall education and workforce development listing me as a champion, and we got it confirmed that Dr. Janelle would be taking that on.
So Austin Pollard for the record, with the homelessness prevention and intervention, I know we had discussed that Scott has been unable to attend quite a few meetings. Would he still be the champion, or has that group had a chance to start up, or do we possibly want to look at somebody else taking over as champion so we can ensure that one starts getting some traction?
Karen Van Hess for the record. No, we have not met on this, Dr. Pamela Janelle or Scott. So I think that there should be a new champion. I know that I can't take that on at this time right now, but I'm always willing to co-chair. So
This is Michelle Fuller Hellauer. Karen, I know that, you know, I noticed you're on quite a few. And you haven't been able to make quite a few of the long-term planning meetings.
yeah, today's my first day back for a month. I've been out on medical leave.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I wasn't sure if it would help you if maybe if maybe there was somebody else who wanted to step up for the long-term planning, and if that would allow you to do maybe work on something else that maybe was closer to what you are wanting to work on.
So I would prefer to work on the homelessness prevention and intervention and the wraparound services. Noga Pamela, Dr. Pamela, and I have met a couple of times on the wraparound services, but not during the holidays.
So am I hearing that if somebody would like to step in as in your place on long-term planning co-chair, that you are, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Nope, you're fine. I'll just continue coughing if I keep talking.
and I don't want to boot you out. I'm trying to help you here.
It's appreciated.
So is there anybody else on the group that might want to step in as a co-chair with the long-term planning?
Madam Chair, Brooke, for the record. So there was a similar challenge with the policy work group, which I'd love if we can get to this, like the update on that, because my co-chair actually has to hop off at the top of the hour. But we actually recruited from the work group itself to have a co-chair. So if we can identify somebody here, that's what we did with the policy committee.
That's a great idea. And I'm okay with that too. The long-term planning committee has met 3 times now, so we've got a team that's rolling.
All right, great. Are you okay if we give the update on the policy committee then?
Please do.
Okay. So Shannon is joining us with Washoe County, who's been designated and then volunteered to be our co-chair for the policy committee and has a report back. So I'm going to pass it to you, Shannon. Thank you so much for joining us and your patience.
Yeah, thank you. So we had our first group for the policy subgroup. We had 7 participants. We had pretty good representation within those 7 participants, including North, South, people in housing, people in direct services, rural, and people with lived experience. We went ahead and prioritized our goals. Our first, as a group, we kind of voted on that. And our first goal that we prioritized was supporting policies that address equitable access to housing by addressing discrimination based on source of income, prior justice involvement, mental health status, and participation in a housing program. So what we did was we reviewed strengths in the community, opportunities that we see, aspirations, risks, and threats that we kind of see already occurring or that may occur. And through that, we had some pretty big topics that we landed on. So the first one is landlord engagement and accountability. So that included creating a landlord engagement strategy, which would include support for landlords, kind of having a third party to help with any issues that arise. So figuring support would increase the willingness to engage or house some of these populations. Also educate landlords about vulnerable populations and discrimination. Looking at a regulatory process to hold landlords accountable for bad practices, and also looking at the demographic information of who's providing housing. Another topic was tenant support. So looking at providing education on the rental process and rental rights for tenants, creating a tenant union or association that would help provide advocacy for individual rights and policy changes, stop blanket regulations regarding background checks or source of income. So not looking at, well, they have this background, so for sure they don't qualify, kind of stopping that blanket regulations, as well as looking at limiting the time frame for background checks. So, you know, X amount of years or whatever that case may be, as well as reducing fees. So, one of the really great ideas that kind of came up was tenants utilizing a single background check for multiple applications versus having to pay for multiple background checks, as well as capping the fees on security deposits, first, last, late fees, etc. Another big topic was utilizing and expanding existing tools and resources. So looking at support through the MCOs, as well as expanding and utilizing wraparound services, such as like the ACT program, providing those additional like case management supports for tenants, as utilizing HMIS data and coordinated entry. So one of the things about that was identified is that it needs a little bit more uniformity. So like the housing assessment through each organization and increased participation, and looking at concepts including second chance housing or shared housing that may increase opportunities for those vulnerable populations. Things that we noted that need to still be done is researching regulatory bodies that's responsible for enforcing fair housing policies. We weren't really, you know, clear on if there is one, if there, who would it be? So kind of researching that. Research how far back landlords can look in background checks. Reviewing rental and cap legislation from the 2023 legislation. So Brooke mentioned that there was a bill, but it did not pass. So kind of looking at what that was and why it possibly didn't go through. And always look at other stakeholder agencies and invite them to participate. We kind of identified a couple, but you know, just trying to keep that conversation going and getting more stakeholder engagement. So our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, January 30th, and after that we will be having bi-monthly meetings. Our goal for our next meeting is to discuss goal number 2, which is supporting housing policies that prioritize funding used to construct and preserve low-income and affordable housing units. An emphasis should be placed on both the development of permanent supportive housing and affordable units targeted to those households at 30 AMI or below who are at risk for homelessness. That's what we did.
Thank you, Shannon. Really appreciate that recap. Really thorough. Does anybody have any questions for Shannon or our policy group?
This is Michelle. When you say, I keep getting this, I always get this mixed up. Bi-monthly meeting twice a month? Bi-monthly meeting every other month?
Every other week.
Every other week. Okay, cool.
Yep.
I always get that mixed up. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. So if possible, I can go to the housing work group and give a recap on that one if there's no questions on policy.
Before you do that, Brooke, I just wanted to make a point with the policy work group. There's a couple of items that you brought up or that Shannon brought up that I think will be important for the long-term planning work group for us to know as you move forward with those items, because we also have been talking about them, like landlord education and equity. So I think there might be some ways for us to collaborate or to As you guys are working on policy, there might be some language for us to build in around long-term planning. Little shift in language, but we want to make sure that our language is the same. We don't want to have contradictory language in the document.
For the record, I completely agree with you. And one of the things that came up as we were having these work group sessions is, the importance of identifying what is the most pressing issues and things that we should be addressing for an action plan for this strategic plan, and sort of allowing our time dissecting each one of the goals to really identify where the opportunities are and the vision and aspirations of what we're looking to accomplish, and then kind of using the ideas that come from these work groups to then populate the action plan. And so although this might be what we talk about in our last meeting, it may not be the most pressing things that we recommend for the action plan. So it's been a great exercise just to brainstorm and have time and space for a diverse group of folks to talk about these topics. So thank you. And I'll just quickly talk about the housing work group. We also met on January the 10th. And we had a great representation, and thank you to my co-chair, who also supported and has been really engaged. And so Austin Pollard participated and helped me co-facilitate, but we had 12 participants total who participated in the housing group, and just great diverse representation from across the state, except we did identify that rural is an area that we still want to make sure that we get good rural representation as well. But we, similar to the policy work group, we prioritized, we had 8 different goals that we have to tackle in the housing work group. And so the first one that everyone agreed should be the first that we tackled is the first goal of providing the resources and the support necessary to further expand and develop our inventory for supportive housing, for folks that are in that deeply affordable housing affordability, so below 60% area median income. We also talked about workforce housing, very low income, and folks in that 30 to 60% AMI, and our extremely low income folks below 30% AMI. So that was the first priority that we tackled. We had some good conversation about the strengths and the opportunities that are happening in our state currently around development and identifying resources. And so things like our Home Means Nevada program came up as a really great opportunity and strength for our state. Also, local housing trust funds, as well as the state housing trust fund, are funding opportunities that we believe are focused on this population. And then also the resources and the diversity of the CARES campus in Washoe County, from addressing non-congregate, congregate shelter, also having a really robust resource center, and now the expansion with actual supportive housing being developed on that CARES campus is just a really good model that folks talked about. And then also in Clark County, the Community Housing Fund, the fact that there was a joint NOFA that went out that brought in not only funding from the county, but also resources from the Public Housing Authority, and the importance of having multi-funding sources that are focused on developing supportive housing. So those are some of the strengths. The group talked about aspiring to ensure that, one, that we understand what the need is, and we've got a tickler or some sort of tracking system that we could set realistic goals, and we can actually see that those goals are being accomplished through some tracking inventory tool that's tracking our housing stock. It's tracking where housing is being developed for which populations, and we can sort of be able to see that in real time. Also make deeply affordable housing attractive to developers. That was brought up, that, what are the ways in which we can incentivize development for this deeply affordable housing? And then also the importance for workforce housing to ensure that we hold the onus on the industries that are diversifying our state. Like, we appreciate the economic development that's happening, and how do we hold these economic developer actors accountable to developing housing for their workforce, so they're not taking up the affordable housing stock that's available for existing Nevadans, but that they also are contributing to this housing issue. And then also student housing came up, and that we aspire that there's enough student housing so we don't have students going through our higher education system experiencing homelessness. And so tackling that and figuring out goals related to that. And so we talked about opportunities and threats, but I'll just pause there to see if anybody has any questions. Our next meeting is Wednesday, January 24th. And we also are meeting bi-monthly because we want to be able to meet the goals that this body set forth to have some targeted goals by March, at the end of March. Austin, do you want to add anything to that or how? Yeah, sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
Michelle Fuller-Hellauer for the record. Brooke, I'm not sure if I heard this correctly or not. Did I hear that you are creating a list of the affordable and supportive housing programs that are available or are upcoming within the state? Or that
No,
was just something that you had talked about we
Yeah.
needed?
Exactly. With that, we need a housing inventory tracker and a way to track what housing we currently have. And then we also need a needs assessment to understand the need and how many units we need, and to develop a targeted goal that we're working towards, and to see this housing tickler kind of take down that number. But without knowing what we have and what we need, it's hard to sort of develop concrete goals around this issue.
Michelle Fuller-Hellauer for the record. I would absolutely agree. And that's one of the challenges we've come up with the long-term planning around the naturally occurring low-income and affordable housing, which kind of has fallen under the long-term planning goals. So if we could add that even to what your if that ends up being a recommendation in the action plan, if we could add the language around the naturally occurring low income and affordable housing to that tickler, and the countdown or whatever you're calling it, I think that might be helpful as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Brooke or Austin? Okay. Anybody else? And who wants to go next?
I can go next. This is Lorena
Lorena.
Lemus for the record. So I had my first meeting last week with my group. I didn't have that much of a turnout. I think I only had about 5 people, but I do know that there was a snow day on that day. And some of the people that had, well, up here in Northern Nevada, we had a snow day. So I did have some people that were with the county and probably other agencies that wanted to participate, but I'm not sure if they got a snow day as well. So I had some people that didn't show up. But the people that I did have show up, I had some representation from Southern Nevada, some from Northern Nevada, but I didn't have anyone from the rules. I am working with Chris Murphy. He is my co-chair, so he is we're going to be working together to make sure that we get the rules represented, as well as connecting to the people that are out there that could participate in this strategic plan and action plan. But for the most part, it was just an orientation. And so we kind of just went over like what this is and what our goals are, and kind of got some input from the individuals that were in our group. And we're going to be meeting once a month. That's what the group stated was going to work best for them. And so I did mention to them about our deadline for the first draft being end of March. And so they're all very aware of it. So our next one will be next in February, the second Thursday. I haven't looked exactly what day that lands on, but the second Thursday of the month at 2:30 is when we'll be meeting. And I'm resending my invite to everybody on my list just in case there were some people that weren't able to participate and see if we can get a more solid group. But our goal is pretty much to just start brainstorming of all the resources and really finding out like what's available in each COC, right, in their areas, and how can we connect our homeless population, our unhoused populations to those resources. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I did have one question though that somebody brought up, and I just want to make sure that I have just some clarification on it. When we're addressing the goals that are on our action plan, we're not necessarily like, we're just pretty much stating like our idea for it, or like something that we would want to move forward on, but we're not necessarily like, because they were saying like, sorry, I'm not making sense, but they were saying that like this doesn't mean like we're going to make, like if they mentioned agencies, that we're making those agencies do anything, right? Like we're just kind of like making an idea of like these agencies would be good for this goal, or like these connections would be good, but then it's kind of just like the idea, and then us working towards making it pretty much like happen and connecting to the stakeholders, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the Michelle Fuller Hallauer for the record. I think I understood what you said. So I think there's a couple things. One, we're trying to identify who's already doing certain things.
Yeah.
And those, you know, yeah, we want to know who's actually doing certain things. So we want to identify the who. For other folks, it might be like for the projection in the future, it might be, oh, these folks might be a good fit. So that wouldn't be where we're saying, oh, you have to do this. It's just oh, these folks, it might be a good fit. So let's have a conversation with them and see if it's something that they might be interested in. And is that something that we, the collective we, can work to see if it is something that we can help to bolster or to develop, whether it's a capacity building or whether it's how do we help them get a grant, or how do we help make it happen, or maybe it's not that agency, maybe it's not within their mission vision, and you know, it's once we have that conversation, it's not a good fit, and it ends up being somewhere else. But you know, we don't even know whether to have them at the table or not if we don't identify to start having a conversation somewhere. So just having your name in there doesn't mean that you're locked in. I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. That's kind of what I said it was, but I just wanted to confirm. But yeah, so I should have more information hopefully for you guys next time of just where we're at with actually addressing this. Thank you.
Great. Questions or comments for Lorena? Okay, and who wants to go next? Anybody want to go for, let's see, wraparound services or education and workforce or homeless prevention and intervention?
This is Karen Van Hest for the record. So it, like I said, homelessness prevention and intervention has not met whatsoever. Noga and Dr. Pamela and it's been a while. It's probably, I want to say like early November that we met, and we have not met since our last meeting where Noga had spoke about this. We have not met.
And that was just a small meeting between you all. That wasn't a community meeting?
Correct.
And you don't have a community meeting on the books yet?
No,
Okay. You need to get a community meeting on the books.
I will reach out to Nolga.
And what do we need to do to get the prevention and intervention group? Do you want to reach out to Pam, and if you need some support, let us know for the prevention and intervention group to get that group started?
I can.
Okay. I don't know if we have anybody here that can speak to education and workforce. I think that any of the chairs or co-chairs are here. Has anybody gone to a meeting of that group?
This is Brooke for the record. I'll just say that I was initially listed for this one for some reason. And when we decided at the last meeting that we had in December that Dr. Janelle would take that on, it was right around the holidays. So I highly doubt that something may have been scheduled between now and then.
Okay.
And she's volunteered to step up in that space. So
Okay.
appreciate her.
Thank you for that, Brooke. So we'll give her a week to figure out. We'll give her a minute to get a meeting on the books. Okay, so I guess that leaves me to give some updates. The data and resource work group, we did not have a meeting in December. I did give an update at our meeting in November because we had our data and resource meeting just prior to our November meeting. So I think you all are up to date on where we are with the data and resource group. So I think we're moving along with that group. Long-term planning, as I said briefly earlier, we've had 3 meetings. Thank you to Austin for covering that meeting for me last month. And we just had a meeting earlier today, and I think we're moving along as far as collecting the information on who's doing what across the state. And our next meeting will be February 20th, and we'll be rolling into really identifying kind of where we want to go for filling the gaps that we have in the system, and start identifying some things that we need to put into the action plan. So I think a good group, a good cross section of folks attending that work team. Again, I think some things that are happening with the other work teams will end up piggybacking or in some type of alignment with the long-term plan action steps. So some of the things I think will actually, I won't be able to solidify the long-term planning piece completely until after you all are done with your pieces, but I'll keep plugging along in the meantime. So, any questions for me? I do have regarding the COCs and the COC report back piece. I do have something to, as the COC, from the COCs, I do have something to report to you all. The rural Nevada COC has determined that they are not going to update their strategic plan until after we have updated our action plan for our strategic plan, because they will utilize our action plan then to see what is applicable to their COC, and then utilize that to help populate their region's COC strategic plan. So right now they're just working on a work plan for 2024, and we'll be willing to do what we need to support the work for the development of our action plan as we move forward. So just wanted to share that out. Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one other thing to that. They had requested that the strategic plan update that Nayani, Roxanne, and I had put in what we're presently doing in the rural area. That update that we did last year, the end of last year, I did resend that out to them so that both the Mary Jane and Jackie both have those updates. That's all.
Sam, did you have on this item, did you have anything you needed to talk to us about with the action plan?
Not at this time. I think we're going to visit on this a little bit later, but we're creating a document that's centralized. It's going to be a shared document, so all changes and updates will be made in real time so everyone can see them as they're happening with the work groups. Right now, we're in the process of getting that permissions and access approved through our own processes through the state. So it's in that process right now, but that is what we're working towards. Once it's all done, we'll send it out via email.
So when that happens, you'll send instructions to all of us, Sam?
Correct. Yes, and that's why we needed the chairs and champions confirmed, because it will go to them. Okay.
So when that's done, expect an email from Niani and Sam giving us our marching orders. All right. Anything else from the group on this agenda item?
Austin Pollard for the record. For the Northern Nevada COC, there's been no changes to the strategic plan update that we provided back in August. The Northern Nevada COC did approve our leadership strategic plan, and it aligns with what we submitted already. So we don't have any new changes.
Great. Okay. Anything else on this agenda item? Seeing none, hearing none, we will close agenda item number 5, and we will move to agenda item number 6, discussion of agenda items for the next meeting, which is February 20th. So, and what do we want on our agenda for February 20th? We've got the standing item of our champions report for the strategic plan. Do we want to hear feedback from Niani, on if we've received any letters?
But for the record, I think that would be really important. Keep that as a item. Our recruitment process for now.
Okay. Anything else we want on our agenda for February?
Brooke, for the record, as part of the recruitment process, could we have an update from Niani and the staff about just our existing membership body and who, if any outreach is being done, or kind of confirming who is an active member of this work group? I think that there was a question today about 2 members that may or may not be moving forward, and so I just wanted to know if we should add an agenda item to kind of solidify if we have a vacancy or not.
Niani, would you be able to do that for our next meeting?
Yes, so there will be feedback, an agenda item, I'm assuming for feedback for the recruitment process, any letters that come in, and then another agenda item on the update of existing membership and if there's any qualifying vacancies, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And we need to reach out and have some very straightforward communication with 2 members to find out if and when they will be rejoining this group, or if they are going to, because if they're not, then they need to be dropped off.
And Brooke, for the record, there's also, I think, some other maybe state agency plans that are happening or being created throughout the state between maybe Health and Human Services and different departments or divisions within Health and Human Services. And I'm wondering if there is a need for this body to sort of at least have access to those other plans that are happening, so we could sort of make sure we're not duplicating effort in this action plan, and maybe signaling to those other plans and providing like an opportunity to do some just cross-plan coordination. So I don't know if that's an agenda item or if it's an ask that we kind of get access to what other plans are happening, but it feels like that would be important for us as we're going down this action plan road.
Oh, that's a great point, Brooke. Because I wonder, Michelle Fuller, hello, for the record. I wonder if, do the regional behavioral health policy boards create like a statewide behavioral health plan? If they do, we probably want to get our hands on that. Because I don't know if it's Workforce Connections or who the workforce body is, the state workforce body is, but is there a state workforce plan, workforce development plan?
I would think work for the record, the workforce boards would maybe be involved in kind of what that looks like, the local workforce boards. But I mean, I think based on the various different topics that we're covering between policies and data, and there's so much overlap, and it's very evident and showing that there's a lot of mitigating factors that are impacting us being effective. So I'm not sure what that looks like, but I feel like we need to kind of have some coordination.
That's makes a lot of sense. And there's probably, I'm thinking out loud here, but there's probably not one place where there's like a directory of all of the all of the plans.
Brooke, for the record, I don't know. There might, I mean, I think the legislature may require these reports or these plans to be submitted. Like we're required to submit a plan at the end of the year. So I'm wondering maybe if that's research that you can help us with, Niani, like if there is a centralized place with the Legislative Council Bureau where they capture the various different plans or reports for the legislature.
We can look. We can definitely do that and find out if there is a place.
Okay.
I wonder if Tim Robb would know.
I was going to ask.
So if we can find that, we want to report back on that.
Yeah, just like what exists, maybe links to where these reports are. So us as a body, we can take time to do our due diligence and our research so we're not duplicating effort.
Anybody else have anything they want on the next agenda? Don't everybody speak at once. I'm thinking everybody left their desk to go take a break. Okay. Well, seeing none, hearing none, let's move on to agenda item number 7. This is our last public comment. No action may be taken upon a matter raised until the matter has been specifically added to an agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. If you're making a public comment via phone, please call 1-775-321-6111. ID number is 847-312-658#. If we are now open for public comment. Please unmute yourself and state your name for the council. If you're already on the phone, I believe you press #6. Any public comment? Seeing none, hearing none. It is now 2:38 on January 16th, and I will now adjourn the Technical Assistance Subcommittee of the Governor's Interagency Council on Homelessness to Housing. Y'all have a great day. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Good day.